Good day and welcome to another World of Warcraft video. In this video we're going to talk about the Primalist Fury event and why you should consider doing the Primalist Fury event. Now the Primalist Fury event is achieved, well unlocked I should say, through a quest that you can receive from Zawardu, the Time Walker Emissary, and you can find them in Thaldraxxus. Secondly, to do the event, it has to actively be up on your map. So before you can do anything, you need to check your map, see that the Primalist Fury event is up after taking the quest, and then you'll be able to go do it. Now once you take the quest from here, all you have to do is make sure that you fly over to the Primalist Fury event. Now the Primalist Fury event has a couple of things players might be interested in. Firstly, probably going to be interested in having the event because of the collections. So there's a couple battle pets, there are a couple like mounts that you can get, there's transmog that you can get, so there is some collection aspect to it, but it also counts for the weekly quest, for your percentage, for your revival catalyst, and it also has the ability to drop some additional resources that you can use for items. So for example, I might be looking to get some additional 389 trinkets or rings for my characters. You can actually grab them from this event. So firstly, you check once it's up, and once it's up you can enter in and you can see all of these elementalist portals. Now there's a couple things you do need to be aware of. So firstly, you need to be aware of the fact that you can get the freezing debuff. So speak to this character here, Tormnamu, and there's two things you can buy here. One is the Armaments of Scale, which arms a Time Walker Resistance Defender with armaments that restore health when deeply wounded and provide a chance to stun the target. Then there's the Field Deployable Heat Source. This allows you to apply warmth. You're going to want to probably have both of these. Then, the next thing that you are going to want to do is look on your map. So there are 4 portals. All 4 portals need to be closed so that you can then tackle the next phase of the event. So pick a portal and move there. As I move away from the protected areas, you're going to notice that my warmth goes down. So my warmth slowly goes down as I fight through the areas, and this is something that's going to obviously affect me as a character. And as your stacks of warmth go down, you will start to have stacks of freezing applied, and this will give you some minor issues. Basically, this is going to start debuffing you, start damaging you, start giving you problems. So one way to get rid of this is to set up a temporary warmth facility, which is obviously great, and from there you can kind of have a little bit of a better time. If you see those little circles there of clarity, or celerity I should say, they will give you a buff. So all you have to basically do is beat the enemies outside of the portals. This will essentially let you have the ability to close or combat the portals. There's a little like timer or indicator here. That means we want to kill enemies in the surrounding area so we can keep the portal safe to have it closed. So it's a pretty straightforward event. It's pretty much just kill stuff. There's nothing too wild. Pick a portal that you want to semi-stick at, depending on how many players there are, and focus on clearing that portal. There's nothing really else too much to it. You can see I'm starting to build kind of stacks of freezing at this point, and this is going to give me some issues. So what I'll do is I am going to summon a temporary heat source. Now by summoning this heat source, I start to build stacks of warmth. You can hold up to 25 stacks of warmth at a single time. So this is a great way to basically pick up a whole bunch of stacks of warmth and prevent yourself from freezing. Now the temporary fields won't last forever. In terms of rewards that you can pick up from the event, well, you saw me pick up a quest, and that's going to give me some elemental resonance. Now, elemental coalescence, I should say. Now that's a valuable resource that you can only use to obtain rewards from the Primalist Fury event vendor, which we'll take a look at afterwards. But also enemies from this event will also give you the chance to drop Elemental Overflow, which is a resource that you can use and obtain from Primalist Storms. So it's a pretty good kind of like situation to be in. Once you complete the event, you will receive the glowing Primalist chest. This contains a whole bunch of storm sigils and some chance for cosmetic Primalist weapons and armor. In terms of the other currency, storm sigils are obviously used for the 389 gear that you can get from Primalist Storms, and of course, as well, you can also grab a lot of decent rewards using them as well. So gear rewards, trinket rewards, ring rewards, etc. Remember, it's always important to look at your warm stacks and to maintain them as best you can. And you can also look at Arms of the Time Walker, which also helps as well. Once you have managed to close a portal, all you have to do is then move on to the very next one. Doesn't really matter which one. You can choose them, just depends. There are also rares that will also spawn around the map that you can kill, and I believe there is an achievement as well that's associated with this event. And if I should be able to find it underneath here, I think, or it's under exploration. Yes, so you can see that there are a couple achievements regarding the Primalist Storms, and basically, yeah, this event will count for those, and there are some events for killing rares, etc. So nothing too wild, honestly speaking. We've now closed another portal, so if you look on your map, it'll say which are disabled, just in case you are wondering. And then you can just move into the next one, slowly making your way across and eventually collapsing all of the portals. Once all of the portals are collapsed, we will enter phase 2. Now phase 2 is against a boss basically, and it's going to be a massive Zerg, but this boss isn't as easy as some of the other bosses in the kind of Zerg category. You know, it's not just like you can sit around and take him on. So you do have to be a little bit careful. We'll talk about that when we get there, although I've now accidentally popped my cooldown, but that's okay. We don't worry about that. So the Primalist Storm event is, I want to say, fairly straightforward. I don't think players will struggle with this event. I think for the large part, a lot of players will understand how this event works. You can see I'm building freezing stacks, and these are going to give me issues the entire time. But you can continue to buy these fire deployable heats, and you should be able to have a pretty good time. So now we move on to the second phase, and we have one Primalist monster to defeat. So what you want to do is you want to build up some stacks of warmth, make sure that you're not being weighed down by the cold. And now we're going to head into this marker, which is the Primalist monster. And we're going to kill this Primalist monster. Now you just want to avoid the mechanics as best you can. That's always something that I advise to players, and it can be quite punishing. He does do quite a lot of damage. He can stun you, he can cause you issues, and you want to do a lot of things that you would do during LFR raiding here. You don't just want to kind of sit and fight the boss and just wait and die. You want to avoid his smashes on the floor. You want to avoid any of the edge. You want to avoid these bubbles here that can spawn around you. They will stun players that are nearby. And generally speaking, you do want to actively pay attention, which for a lot of players is maybe not such an important thing. During this phase, you want to avoid the AoE on the floor, and you want to make sure that you kill the Winter's Aegis. If you do not kill these, you will not have the ability to kill the boss. So it's really quite a interesting event. It's honestly quite, like, I want to say, good. I think it's good to have events that require a little bit more than the usual Zerg. Not like it's a full-on raid boss or anything, but it's generally speaking just very good to have the ability to do content that requires a little bit more thought than the average bit of content. So I think something like this is interesting, and of course it can be frustrating, maybe because players want to just get rewards quick, but I think it's really good that the game is trying to make an event that's at least somewhat engaging. If you have these bubbles around you, please make sure that you move out of the way. If you have these little ads here, stun them and try to zerg them down, as this is going to help you out quite significantly. They do cause a spell called Winter's Grasp that will do quite a significant amount of damage. If you're rooted like myself, try your best to avoid the damage, but otherwise it's just simple mechanics. A lot of players can be taken by surprise by this, especially if you are a DPS of some kind. Maybe you've just started gearing. You won't necessarily have the health pool to kind of tank or take a lot of these mechanics over time. So what I always suggest is just basically try and make sure that you can keep some distance and just keep tagging the boss and try and contribute DPS wise, because that's what's going to help you the most. Then we enter a second phase of these Primalist goodies, these Winter Aegises, and there's now 4 of them. So it's obviously gotten a little bit more difficult, and very similarly, you need to make sure that you kill each of them. Try and split up a little bit to do some damage to them, so that you can cleave what you can, and be aware of the ads in the middle. If you can't focus on them, maybe just stun them. It will at least help out with mitigating the amount of damage that you and the group takes. Because remember, this is not really something that's going to be achievable if everyone just starts dying all over the place. So you want to make sure that you can at least somewhat have a decent amount of players around in your party. Beyond that, there's nothing too much that you need to worry about. After the second phase, it will just be a repeat of the first with the boss, and you'll be able to somewhat just zerg him from this point onwards. But it's at least somewhat interesting for me. As a player, I think it's great. And now that the boss is opened up again, we can focus him down. I have been stunned fantastically. But yeah, now that the boss is at this phase, we can focus him down and we can have a pretty good time. Again, you want to be aware of what the boss is doing, and if you can, try and mitigate all of the terrible things that could happen to you or the party if possible, especially if you are carrying a mechanic that could affect multiple party members. Understand that if you're like me and you're someone that's a tank and you're overtly geared, you're still affecting the other players around you, so you want to try and make sure that you limit that as much as possible. And that's it. That is the Primalist Fury event complete, which is great, and we get a glowing Primalist cache, which is awesome. Once the Primalist event is complete, you'll be able to go hand in quests here, and it will disappear off your map. Once you have unlocked the Primalist event, it will be available to all of your alts, so don't worry about it. It's a fantastic way to gear up every single alt. By opening the glowing Primalist cache, we have received some Essence of the Storm, and we've received some Passing Resonance. Passing Resonance, of course, being the currency that fills up our quest for the week. So our Revival Catalyst, it counts 20%, so that's going to be valuable to some of you. If you get any quests during the event, you can hand them in. And this field, Primalist Researcher, is where you will be able to spend your currencies. You can see that the equipment here requires Elemental Overflow, and Sands of Temporal Perfection also requires Elemental Overflow. These are all rings and trinkets, which is fantastic. You then get a Stormed Primalist Cache, which you can trade in Essences of the Storm for. You then also get Chasing Storm. Eddie, what's wrong? I just got terrified by my dog. You get Chasing Storm. This adds this toy to your toy box and summons a storm to chase an allied target. You then get Time Lost Vorquin Fowl, and you get Sky-Skinned Hornstrider. All of these require both Elemental Flow and Elemental Essence, or Storm Essence, or Essence of the Storm, whichever one it is. So, that's it for the Primalist Future event. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So until then, take care, stay safe, and of course, as always, see you next time. Bye.